How are we doing? So this is episode 3 of the Mind Masters Mindset and Mental Health podcast. So following up on a couple of really good episodes, we are recording the next few episodes this weekend, and I am buzzing to bring the first of those to you guys now. So I am being joined by a guy, a bit of a strange meeting story we've got, which we'll go into shortly. But Peter Miller, who is a sports nutrition specialist, massive in fight nutrition especially, but nutrition on a whole, this guy is going to be a fountain of knowledge for us on the page. But as always, we're going to get into the nitty gritty of who Pete is, what's his story in terms of what's led to him becoming the nutritionist that he is now, and of course his insight into mindset and mental health, how he deals with that, what he's learned through life. Yeah, and of course, we're just going to get right into the chat. So welcome, Pete. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Looking forward to having a good chat today.
Yeah, man. So it's a nice early morning one for us. I've been doing these at night, and usually I am absolutely shattered, but I picked up that you're an early riser as well. So I went, I need to take advantage of this.
Yeah, I'm at a 5:30 starter, so yeah, it's a good time for me.
So you're just still adjusting. You've just came back home, or what is home? You've just moved, so you're still adjusting to time zone, I guess.
That's a good question. What home is actually? I'd say UK is probably my home now. I got back from Australia last week, so a week today. So just adjusting to the time zone. Jet lag's been a bit all over the place the past few days. You feel like you're getting over it, and then it strikes back with a vengeance. You wake up at 3 a.m. like, what's going on here? But yeah, slowly getting used to the weather too. It's pretty cold.
That's what I was going to say. The weather has welcomed you with open arms, hasn't it?
It wasn't too bad when I landed off the plane. I got outside and I was in shorts and t-shirt, flip-flops. I was like, it's actually all right. 3 days in, the ice in the car in the morning on the way to the gym. Like, have I made the right decision here?
Good man. Yeah, well, you're speaking to the, as you probably heard, me being made a fool of that day when we first met. I'm the Scotsman, so this is as good as it gets. For me, our summer. If you get up late, you've maybe one day you've missed the summer. That's how bad it is up here at times. So Pete, for I imagine when this drops, this is going to land with a lot of people who already knows who you are and knows what you're about, knows your story, but it's also going to land with a lot of people that follow me in terms of the kind of content I put out. So for those people, and I guess for anyone else that manages to find this podcast, who's Pete? Who are you? Who's the guy that we're listening to today?
So I'm Peter. I run a business called Condition Nutrition. So I work with predominantly fighters. So I've got guys in the UFC, won championship, got a couple of boxers as well. And my job in a nutshell is to get them on weight and get them to perform optimally during training and competition. And it's a really exciting space to be in because it's an emerging field in terms of nutrition. So it's a good space to be in. And yeah, I've actually lived overseas for the past 5 years. I've lived in Australia, so my work is all online mostly. But luckily, the past year I've had the chance to go to some really big events and network with quite a few people across the world. So it's I'm blessed to be in a job that doesn't feel like work, and I'm learning all the time. So yeah, I've got the best of both worlds.
So how did you become a nutrition? How did you get into the nutrition? Were you always into food and nutrition, or was this something? What led to that path?
My journey to this is so crazy because in school I was a right knobhead in school. I didn't want to listen. Was just always in trouble, and finished school with absolutely no. I had 2 GCSEs. I had PE and history. That's the only GCSEs I got. And I was always interested in sport, and once I finished school, I was like, well, I don't really know what to do. So you can't really, once you've got no GCSEs, you can't go on to do your A levels or anything like that. So I ended up working in a local gardening DIY centre. And I was there for like 2.5 years. And I remember this, like, do you know the moments in your life where like it's like a pivotal moment? I remember a guy came in and he was like the new manager, and I was like this cocky, scouser, shaved head, thought I was Mr. Big Bollocks. And then he comes up to me on the first day and goes, like, oh, nice to meet you, I'm Jeff. I was like, he went, so what you doing here? I was just like, what do you mean? He's like, what are you doing here? He's like, what do you mean? I'm working. He's like, what you doing with your life? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you can't fucking work here for the rest of your life. You need to sort your shit out. And I was sort of taken aback by it, because I was probably about, I think I was 20 at the time.
Wow.
So I was just like thinking at first, like, who the fuck's he talking to? And then I went home and it saw that thought just sat with me in my mind. And I thought, he's right. Like, what am I doing? Just coasting along. And then I'd always had that passion for sports. I could play football as a kid, always been around, I just generally like sports. I was like, well, what my interest? I looked into doing courses. And so I went back and resat me maths and English and science at GCSEs. Used to go to like a school one evening a week to resit them all. And then I took a course. It's called an access course in sport. So basically it's for older adults. So you do a year and then it gets you into Path and university. And I applied for that and ended up picking a sports science degree. It was a bit like when I picked it, I didn't actually know what I wanted to do. I was just sort of do anything. Like, this is, I'll pick a sports course or pick sports science. First year in uni, I was like, this is so hard. Like, I couldn't get over it. I was like, this is like sports science with psychology, biomechanics, all this. I was like, fucking hell, I need to like up my game here. So like I started doing a lot of reading, and then after the first year, I realized, I'm not too bad at this. Like, I can actually do this. I had a bit of confidence then. Ended up doing the full years, got 2-1, got a first in my dissertation, and ended up doing a master's in sports nutrition. And then once I finished, I was like, okay, let's start up your own business, and let's work with all these elite athletes and go from there. It doesn't usually work like that when you first start up a business. It's a lot harder. It's a bit naive. And I set up my Instagram page, Condition Nutrition, started posting, generic fitness facts and cooking videos, all stuff like that. And I decided I'd always wanted to go to Australia. Like, I used to watch like Neighbours and Home and Away. It's like, oh, it'd be an awesome place to live in Australia. So decided to pack my bags and just go to Australia, and thought this would be the place where I can set up a nutrition business, because everyone's mad into the fitness and nutrition, etc. That didn't go to plan. So for like 3.5 years, was just didn't really do a lot. Wasn't making any money. Doing odd jobs. And then one day, I got a guy messaging me saying, "Oh, do you do nutrition for like fighters doing like the weight cuts?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can do it, yeah." And then I'd always like been like, I've got friends one of my friends in the UFC and boxers, I've always like been passionate about like combat sports, but I'd never like competed or anything like that. And then so when he messaged me, I was like, yeah, cool, started doing it. And then it just literally just went from him recommendation. This is about 2.5 years ago. So about 2 years ago, and just went from that, and then just a snowball effect. And then there's more people coming to me, and then just in the position I'm in now, it's like I look back and think it's absolutely crazy where it's come from.
So that one guy was the turning point, and so it's like you, by the sounds of it, you probably at that point you're questioning, have I fucking got this right?
Oh yeah, like that was it. It was strange because it was at a moment in my life where I was in Australia and I wasn't doing what I was sort of in Australia, like everyone from the outside looking and going, you're in paradise in Australia, but actually wasn't really doing anything like fulfilling. I was just doing odd jobs. I was trying to make a bit of money on my page, getting the odd clients, but it wasn't any kind of full-time income. And I actually remember the conversation when the guy messaged me. And he's like, to do that. And then, yeah, it just went from there, and then it just snowballed, and yeah, it's to where I am now. It's absolutely crazy.
How many years did you say you went when you went out to Australia?
I went out in September 2017, and that happened in, I think it was January 2021.
So you were out there through COVID as well then?
Yeah, through COVID and everything.
So
Yeah.
what was that like as a challenge?
It was difficult because obviously all my family are over there. Like I had my girlfriend at the time over there, and some of her family were there, but you couldn't see your family, and it was quite difficult because you didn't know when you were gonna be, because Australia was really strict. Like they literally just closed the borders, and there was no sort of sign for when it was going to open up again.
That's kind of where I was going there with that. I remember Australia reading and seeing that it was really strict, and I'm picturing you out there as a budding entrepreneur trying to make it.
Yeah.
In a place that's just shut down.
Yeah.
So you're not able to go and meet the potential business clients and stuff that you probably you potentially could get, and it probably posed even more difficulties on top of what would have been quite an anxious situation.
Well, I think the thing for me as well, when I first went to Australia, I had all intents and purposes of like setting up my business, but then you end up meeting people and you're on your own, so you end up just like traveling around and you're just going with the flow. So for like 2.5 years, I was just living there, and then it just got to the point. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I need to actually come up with a plan. Like, and it's very easy to sort of to do that over there when you go out there like traveling, because you are on your own and then you meet people, and you just end up just getting really comfortable. And in Australia, I was doing like crazy jobs. I was like laboring, I was cleaning toilets, I was just doing all kinds of jobs just to get by. And like, I look back at it now and think like, yeah, just in a strange way, like didn't have the confidence, didn't actually think I could do it, like the business sense of things.
So that's a good point. And so you went out there with an idea in your head.
Yeah.
This is what I think I want to do.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
This feels like the place to go, that I could do it.
Yeah.
And then you arrive, and then there's a situation where I'm going to guess here, self-doubt starts to creep in. You're like,
100%. Well, when you're there, as I said, when you're there, you just like, you meet someone and then you're meeting people, and then they're doing this, and you're like, okay, I'll go along with it because I've got no one else to really be around. I've got family there, that sort of safety net. And then the time just ticks along, and then the more time ticks along, the more that kind of like confidence goes. And I think like at one point I had like I didn't believe it was going to happen. I thought like this is just a pipe dream of doing it. And then like I just remember, so I'll give you a lot. So I went out there on like a backpacking visa. So you get like 2 years as like it's called a work and holiday visa. So you can go to Australia for 2 years, and then once you're 2 years up, unless you've got a job or something they want, you have to go home. And I was adamant I didn't want to go home, but my job, my qualification, I couldn't stay. So I ended up staying on a student visa, ended up studying to be a chef, just because I wanted to stay in Australia. Like I look back at it now, it was like a kind of like embarrassment. Like I didn't want to come home and just go like, oh, what's Peter doing? And like, you just, oh, I've just done 2 years and I'm back to square one. Yeah, I'm just back to square one again. So I ended up picking to be a chef for 2 years, and I was doing that. I didn't enjoy it at all. Like, hated it. It was like, didn't learn anything. It was really, really poorly taught course. I was doing the labouring jobs at the time, and I just got to like I was with my ex-partner at the time, and then we had a bit of trouble, and then it just got to like a point where I was just like, it just like a light bulb moment. I was like, what the fuck am I actually doing here? Like, what is like, either try and make a go of my business or try and do something, or I go home, because this isn't working, kind of thing. Even though like people from the outside will look at you and go, well, he's in Australia, he's living the dream, he's at the beach every day, he's doing this. But really, I was like, I wasn't internally, like, there was something in my head going, Peter, like, you need to sort your shit out. And then it just took that moment. I was like, right, I need to give it a go now. And like for 6 months, I just tried as hard as I could to get myself out there. And then that moment, probably like 4 months in, with that message from that guy, and then that's that's where it all changed.
It's crazy. Listen, and I love what you're talking about, because I speak to so many people about this, but it's like we tell ourselves lots of lies. So we tell ourselves and we tell everyone who'll listen, I'm trying my best, but we're not. There's no way. I'm listening to you and I can almost see the guy that was putting out the highlight reel, Australia, kind of trying, but not really trying. And then this guy then went, what the fuck am I doing? And then he just went, boom, all in. And then the outcome, when you took that all-in attitude, boom.
Yeah, 100%. And I used to make excuses as well, where people go, oh, why haven't you got, like, I used to get messages from my mum at home, go, why don't you apply for the gym job? Why don't you do that? And I used to come up with the excuse, oh, it's not what I'm looking for. I used to just build up excuses all the time. And, like, it's crazy when I look back at that person and think, I don't even know who that person is now. It's like, and I remember the moment, that sort of light bulb moment. I was in a car park next to the beach, and my relationship with my ex-partner just finished. The course was going terrible, and I just sat there and I was like, something needs to change here. I was like, and that was just like, that was it. It's literally just my mindset. I was like, right, I'm going to start condition nutrition. I remember going in at the time to where I was living, probably a couple of weeks later, I'm like, because I was living with my ex-partner at the time and her family, and I went into the room. I was like, I've got an idea what I'm going to do. And they're like, what? I was like, I'm going to start up condition nutrition. And they all looked at me and they're like, you've been saying this for the past 3 years, Peter. And I was like, and that just like fueled me in my head. I was like, fuck this, I'm going to do this now. And like it, and then just went from, like, just, I was messaging gyms. I remember having a big list of gyms on the board I was going to talk to, like MMA gyms, boxing gyms. I was on social media messaging people, and then I just got a break in a gym to just volunteer and do like free consultations. So just to put myself out there. And I remember going there and no one wanted to speak to me. Like, at first I was really excited, like, this is it, gonna get, like, people, business is gonna take off now. I've got a seat in the gym. Nobody came to me. And then that moment where that fighter just messaged me, it was like, I look at it now, I think that was just like a moment in time where, like, everything just completely changed. It's crazy.
And like, I think I love this part of the story, but what I also love is how humble you're being by not really so far really giving people an insight into then what you then did with this, because certainly since I've been following you and I've been really tuning into the work you've done some pretty significant work in the field of, condition nutrition, sports nutrition, if you like. You've worked with some top guys. Give us a bit more of an insight into the types of stuff that you've done since that moment where you just said, right, what the fuck am I doing?
So that happened. Then I started working with a few fighters, and then there was a guy in Perth, who, like, a rising fighter in Perth, that I started working with, and then just more people, like more bigger names, came to me, and then it just literally just went from, like, you're working with one, like, quote unquote, like, top fighter, and then they see the job that you do, and then it just went from that. And then it's all I always found with, like, what I've learned with the business is, like, it's that first initial period of, like, getting it off the ground, and then once you get off the ground, it's like a bit of a snowball effect. And probably, so I was still in Perth. So that was about March 2021. And then I was in Perth until about January 2022. And then business was going well. And I thought, I want to be at these events. I want to go to these, like, because Perth's very isolated and doesn't get the events that it does in the UK. And at the same time, I was missing home. Like, I hadn't seen my mum and dad for 2.5, 3 years, missed, like, passing me nan and my granddad. So I was like, I need to, like, come home. And I just decided I'm just gonna fuck it. I'm just gonna pack my bags and go. And I came home, and I had a guy who was fighting for the world title, like, the week I got home. And I went there and he won the world title. And, like, just being around there, the energy, the emotions, I was like, I need to stay around there. This is, like, I like love this feeling. This is amazing. So I made the decision, like I was just going to stay in the UK, and then I just went to events, came up with a couple of ideas, doing seminars, just networking with different gyms. And I spent 6 months just networking with as many people as possible just to build that foundation. And then after that, I decided I had a couple of guys who were fighting in Thailand and Dubai and Singapore. So I decided, I'll go for a bit of a travel for 2-3 months, and did that. And but yeah, like looking back, like if someone had said that to me that time, oh, don't worry, Peter, like you be in this position now, it's like it blows me around. It's crazy. And like I don't take anything for granted. I know, like this is like the journey never ends. There's always continuous growth and always trying to, what can I do better? Never like sort of going, oh, this is it now. I've done well. I always want to get better.
Does traveling with the guys that you've worked hard with them, you've put in a solid plan in terms of the nutrition, you know, you've helped them dial it in, you've watched the sacrifice, all that stuff. Does traveling to see that outcome, what does that give to you? What's that like? How's that feel?
I think it's very, I wouldn't say the word easy probably isn't the right word, but it's very, you can give a plan to someone online, go, there you go, like off you go. But it's a completely different scenario when you're actually in there in the trenches. There's a big title on the line, it's a big event, and being there and you're always learning it, because you're learning, the language that you're speaking to a fighter, how you communicate, little tricks. I wouldn't necessarily do this nutrition strategy this way next time. I'll change it up. So I think like just put yourself out there. Like a lot of the time, I was just spending my own money to go there because I wanted that hands-on experience, because that'll help me massively, in the future. Because, as I said, you could get, someone's fighting for the world title and you just give them a plan online. But have you actually been there? Have you been in that environment, like the fight week, a couple of days before weigh, and the emotions, the feelings of the fighter? And until you've actually been there, you can't really experience it.
Yeah. And when you talk about nutrition, I was watching some of your reels and stuff. Some of the things I found, because I know that you do specialize in fighters, but for myself, as someone who's doing endurance, things, big long events, potentially like this year I'm going to be doing some things that's going to last days and stuff like that. So I found that I've been going through them. I found some of the stuff around carbohydrates really interesting, the stuff around water intake, around the fluids. I'm not a fighter, but I found all this stuff really, really interesting. Do you find that, although you're specialising in fighters, a lot of this stuff is transferable throughout the different disciplines and sports? Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like the thing is with combat sports and nutrition is the research. There's very little research, because unfortunately in the combat sports space, it was just passed down. All the nutrition advice was passed down from all the coaches did it this way, the coach did it that way. And like some of the stories I've heard from fighters, like what they've done to like make weight, or the nutrition has just been like borderline just insane. And like in terms of, if you wanted to look at carbohydrate recommendations for a marathon or a football player, rugby, you can go on the internet and find loads of really tightly controlled studies which give specific recommendations. For something like boxing or MMA, there isn't. So you're picking the research and applying it into the combat sports space. So a lot of like the carbohydrate recommendations are from other sports. So it's all very interchangeable, especially with like the stuff with like fluid recommendations that's taken from stuff from endurance events. So it's all very interchangeable, because there's, apart from like combat sport fighters I do work with a couple of lads who do like strongman events.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff is interchangeable, because they do a bit of a weight cut, and all the carbohydrate fluid recommendations are very similar too.
See if you were to say like fundamentals, if in nutrition. So for anyone who is preparing for a big event, and whatever their sport is, they're preparing for a big event, what would you say? And don't worry, like I know that you could go as technical as you want with these things, the more knowledge you have. But if you were to sort of generalize fundamentals in terms of, their approach to their training and their event, what's the sort of top tips that you can throw out to people?
I think the main thing what the majority of people don't do is fuel themselves enough for the event or training. That's if you're doing an ultra endurance event the main thing is to finish that race, and you need to get the right fuel in you. And unfortunately, there's a lot of you can type things on Google, and one article say one thing, one article say another. I think fueling for training is very important, because if you don't fuel yourself enough, you're going to fatigue and you're not going to be able to perform that training, especially if it's an event where you have to cover a certain distance. You're just going to hit a wall and fatigue. Same with fluids as well. Majority of people don't drink enough fluid, so dehydration, especially in longer distance events, can play a massive part in in fatigue. I think getting the fundamental, the way I look at things is you always got to hit the fundamentals. Like, are you eating enough fruit and vegetables? Are you having enough carbohydrates for your training sessions? Are you having enough protein for recovery? Are you drinking enough fluid? Are you having enough sleep? I think them 5 metrics, they're the baseline things you need to cover. And then you can look at additional things. Once you've got them things covered, go, okay, is there any kind of supplements that we can add on top? Then the specific timing around your training, have this an hour before, or you want to go really specific. I think once you get them 5 fundamentals right, then you can add other branches to the tree.
It's funny you just mentioned specifics. I noticed a post that you did around creatine. Yeah, so what was that about? Because creatine is something that I think, and my limited knowledge, I see a lot of people throwing that about. I'm taking creatine. I'm like, okay, what for? And they're like, because everyone's taking it. And I'm like, you did a good, so let's just pick that as one of the specifics.
Yeah, so creatine is one of the phosphocreatine system is one of the energy systems that for really high intensity bursts of activity. So you loading with creatine increases your creatine stores in your body, which means that you can perform a high intensity activity longer. So creatine is probably the most researched supplement out there. There's thousands of controlled studies on it. So there's been plenty of studies that have shown it can increase the muscle mass, your strength, performance in them events, but it's also got a lot of benefits in terms of cognitive function. There's quite a lot of emerging research on brain health and memory loss, supplementing with creatine. So I'd advise creatine not just for a performance benefit, but there's emerging research in the psychological benefits. But in my space with the creatine supplementation, everyone goes on about, oh, well, don't you hold on to water with creatine when you first take it, but isn't that bad for a fighter? And initially there was a study that shown that you do hold on to water when you take creatine, because basically creatine is an osmotically active substance. Basically, it gets taken up into the muscle through a sodium creatine transporter. So when anything's with sodium, it draws water into the muscle. So therefore, it makes sense that if you take creatine, you'll draw water into the muscle and you'll increase your total body water, therefore increasing your body weight.
Okay.
So that was one of the early studies. Everybody thought, oh, well, for a fighter, that's terrible for a fighter, because you need to cut weight. But a lot of studies now have shown that you don't some people don't actually hold on to any water, and if you do, that levels out. And even if it doesn't level out, having water in the muscle is a good thing, because water helps the muscle grow. So I always say to fighters, if you're not concerned about a minimal increase in body water, then you've got other things you need to focus on in your nutrition. There's other things that you need to focus on, because that is a very small, as I said, that's a very small branch of the tree. And it's probably the most common message I get on Instagram. Hey mate, you mentioned this about creatine. Just stop taking creatine. I've heard it's bad. A guy commented on me post yesterday. All my friends who take it are bald. So there's like so many, there's so much misinformation on the internet about supplements, and it's a lot of the time it's my job is myth busting with a lot of nutrition facts.
Everyone's looking for confirmation bias, aren't they? So everyone's looking for, I believe this, so I'm going to search until I find something that backs up that theory that says, well, look, I told you guys. So they're automatically looking for it.
Well, the thing as well, like I got a comment about the baldness. Is like that's there's so many factors that determine whether you go bald or not. Like you couldn't say. It'd be so hard to control that variable. Like, but that's the unfortunate thing about it's the social media and stuff is good because people like myself and other practitioners can put good research out there. But then there's the caveat where there's a lot of shit that goes out there too, and a lot of misinformation. Yeah.
So back to the fighters, something I've always been interested in myself in terms of fighter nutrition and the big where your expertise comes in to help keep fighters safe and healthy. Why is it so many get the weight cutting wrong? Why is it so many? Is there a balance in that between the fighter wanting to be heavy at the weight or lighter at the weight in terms of the weight they choose to fight at, and then what they put their body through? What is it that it seems to be that so many fighters are killing themselves to get to a certain weight? And I often wonder in terms of it's the lack of people like yourself in the corner for a lot of these younger fighters, that they're isolated just with them and their coach. They're being advised, though, you should be at that weight when the body just simply wants to maybe be at another weight.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
That's one of the big things that a lot of guys fight at a weight class, which their body composition is just not suitable for. And this is where it goes back to the getting their advice from the coach or me coach. I've had numerous conversations where the coach told me I walk around at 85, the coach wants me to fight at 70. That, okay. What can you give me a reason? Oh, because you said that's the right one. Okay, well, we'll get like a body composition assessment and 10% body fat, for example. And it's like, okay, well, you to get down to that weight, where are we pulling? Because where are we pulling that weight from? We're going to have to tap into your muscle, which obviously is not good for the fighter because that can affect your strength, your power. So what a lot of fighters do, they'll compete at a weight class, which is way too small for them. And then because they're really lean, they end up doing really big water cuts. And then that's when the complications happen. And as you said about the education side of things, where the research in the combat sports space it's only come to the forefront probably in the last maybe like 5 to 10 years. So a lot of fighters are just still following the advice from what the coach said. Well, I did it that way. John fought 30 times at 70 kilos. He had no problem. Yeah, he probably got to that weight, but did he kill himself every time he was doing it?
Yeah.
And I think the thing that people don't realize, and this is a rabbit hole that I'm always learning about, like, the water cut is a very, very dangerous part. Like if you get it wrong and you're cutting too much, that could be the difference between life and death. I remember when I first got to Perth, there was a 17-year-old girl who was a Thai boxer, and she got told by a coach to go for a run in a sweatsuit, and she collapsed and died on the road, like 17. I don't know if the coach got done for that, but like it just shows like how dangerous that can be. And there's, fortunately, there hasn't been any of note that have like any kind of serious instances. But in the past, I remember when I was studying this in uni, there was, I think in like 1996, there was 3 wrestlers that all died in the sauna due to dehydration. It's like this is serious stuff. And if you're just winging it and saying, I've done 4 kilos in the sauna, well, that's not a problem. Like sometimes the body, you can just push the body too far, and like you've probably seen on like videos where guys you've seen them step on the scale and they look like an absolute shadow.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I say this to quite a few people, like, could we get you to a certain weight class? Probably, yeah, we could, but is it going to be healthy? No. And you can get to that weight, but the refueling process, people think, oh, you have your water, I'm fine, that's great. No, it to get hydrated in the body, it takes time. There's processes, there's gradients to go through.
Yeah.
So in terms of total body water stored in two different compartments: intracellular fluid, which is fluid in your cells; extracellular fluid, which is fluid in and around your cells. And then that's split up into two parts: interstitial fluid, which is the same like fluid around the cells, and fluid in your blood, in the plasma. So when you initially start to sweat or dehydrate, you're pulling fluid from the plasma, from the blood. But the more you get dehydrated, the more water is getting pulled from inside the cells. So vital organs, kidneys, brain. So the bigger the water cut, the bigger the risk of potential irreversible damage on brain, kidneys. And you can see it sometimes where the guys have cut a lot of weight, and then they've gone into the ring, the cage, the next day, and they've been hit by a punch which you wouldn't expect them to get knocked out by, and then they've been knocked down. That's probably due to they've done too big of a weight cut. They haven't refueled. They haven't got that water back, because it just doesn't go straight in. It takes time to get back in. Could be up to like 48 hours to really fully hydrate if you cut a lot of water. So it's a big challenge. But I think the good thing about now with the UFC, they've got like a performance institute. So a lot of guys in the UFC now are not missing weight because they've got that support team around them. But for the average guy who's competing in a local regional event, these guys are cutting massive amounts of weight all the time with no help at all.
I think it's frightening. Just listening to the way you're describing it, it's making me like think, wow, I think when I used to be involved around the boxing scene, I was doing a lot of the refereeing and stuff like that years ago before I had stepped away. I remember in the run up to these shows, these lads that I knew preparing for these shows, sitting in saunas like for ridiculous amount of times, out running in sweatsuits, which I am not a fan of at all. You would see them on the night of it, like the weigh-in, and you'd be going, they don't. It was something you'll know what I say. A lot of people won't know what I say when I say this, but there's something in the eyes. The eyes don't lie.
Yeah.
And you're looking at them and you're going, one, I get a fighter probably doesn't want to be happy. He's missed out on a lot of things and stuff like that in the run up to the fight. He sacrificed a lot, but there was more of a deepness to it. You could just see something, and it would be difficult for me to read it. You would see it a mile off. Yeah. And then you'd be in the fight, refereeing, and you just see them, what you've just described really well, getting hit with shots that they would never get hit with, and everything felt laboured. When I looked at, there was one lad in particular, I remember, it looked like he had lead in his shoes. It just didn't look right. And he got knocked out badly that night. And there was a lot of people at ringside were really worried. It was like Manny Pacquiao getting hit off Marquez that night. I mean, he hit it like, and you were like, but he did a cut that he really shouldn't have done.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing as well is you could lose a decent amount. So the cut-off point I typically recommend, like no more than 5% of your fight weight in a water cut. So if you did a really hard sparring session or training session for a couple of hours, you could lose around 2 to 3% of your body weight just through sweating. So doing them kind of cuts, that's good. That's good. Like the 5% is like the cutoff mark when we go, okay, once we go past that, we're going into dangerous territory there, because we don't know, where that fluid's getting pulled. We do know where it's getting pulled from, but the more it goes 5+%, it's getting pulled in from inside the cells. And also the side of things where people will do these cuts, even the 5% water cuts, but they still don't do the rehydration strategy properly. They don't put the electrolytes in the drink. They just drink, whatever they want. They don't refuel properly. They go to the Nando's or the pizza. So they don't do that process. And I always say the refuel process is is just as important as the actual fight week weight cut. It's like you need to get it. You need to get it right, because especially like with the fluid intake, if you're not following some kind of structured plan and just winging it, them incidences can happen. And even on the day, in terms of not necessarily getting hurt or knocked out, it's just your overall performance on the day where you just feel a bit sluggish and you haven't got the energy. And
it's certainly in the run up now to something that I personally learned last year. We had, it's a 47-mile ultra down called the Lap down in Lake Windermere. It goes right round it. But on this day, I'd been before, so this was my second time back. And I went down with my wife, and I was like, I know what to expect. I've got this. I've trained well. Not a problem. Well, I arrived and it was a heat wave. So again, I thought I can handle heat. I should be good. Really never gave it enough respect in terms of what it was going to take out of me. So I didn't adjust the amount of fluids I would need. I took enough fluids for what would have been a normal day. I threw my fluids really quickly. I replenished them. I went through them quickly again. Again, something I saw in one of your posts, I could tell by the colour of my piss that I was in trouble, but I kept going because I had went with a time target and I didn't adjust the time target taking in the heat. So I just kept going, kept pushing. There's a picture of me as I cross the finish line. I'm lying on the ground, getting bottles of water poured over me. And then what I didn't realise just how badly dehydrated I was. I went back and I was, to your point, went back. I was just focused on, I think, go back to the hotel. I was like, I'll just have a drink, i.e. I drink. I was like, the day was done. I was burst. And I was getting more and more going downhill. My head was splitting, starting to feel a bit. Everything was just I wasn't addressing that dehydration part. And now I realise just how significant that can be.
100%. Yeah, especially in the heat. Like, and a big thing with it's going on a bit of a caveat where I push a lot on about heat acclimation for my fighters, like heat acclimation training. So it's a bit similar to heat acclimatization, where you'll go and train in a warmer climate. If you're doing, people when they're training the Olympics, they'll go off to somewhere warm to compete. And when you're, say, for example, you did that race and it's really warm, you haven't ran in that temperature before, so your core temperature is going to go up, your heart rate's going to go up. You're going to be the overall comfort of that experience is not going to be pleasant. So that'll definitely explain why you were just bonked out, because that's the thing that I push me fighters for doing the water cut, like heat acclimation. So go to the sauna regularly, go and sit in a hot bath, because when we get to that scenario, when the weight cut, you've been here before. I've been doing this for the past 8 weeks, a couple of times a week, and it makes a massive difference. A little bit of
it's good, because it does. Actually, it's more valid than people realise that we're watching or listening, because it's about good habits in essence as well, isn't it? It's you don't want someone just to drink lots of water the week of their event. You want them drinking lots of water all the time. You don't want them just to introduce electrolytes the day of the event. You want them to know what electrolytes are and the benefits. So get used to these things.
100%. Yeah, I've seen massive differences with not only like the physiological benefits of doing like the heat acclimation stuff, but like just the overall psychological. When it comes to that weight cut, most of the guys that do, like, they'll cut a couple of percent in the bath, sauna. Once they've done that heat acclimation over them weeks before the fight week, like, easy. Like, it feels like the overall comfort is just massive changes from it. And as you said, it's just building that habit. If you're going to do something and you train towards it, you've got to put things in place to make that experience better and improve that situation.
Yeah. So we covered top tips. I want to just, before we move on to something else, anyone that's interested, anyone that's interested in nutrition and for whatever it is they're doing, what would be your absolute avoids? So don't do's.
That's a good question. Avoids. I think if you're serious about your nutrition and you really like seek out a professional. Like there's so many out there, things to look out for. Would say if you were looking for like look at the qualifications, look if they got, if they got a degree in nutrition, health, etc. I think the internet can be a very dangerous sort of place when you're trying to seek advice, because you can get a lot of misinformation. And I think that's the main one. Like if you really, you can, like, there's things that you can learn yourself. But I think if you want to get the fundamentals right and you want to know your body, I think definitely seeking out a professional is important. And also a big thing now is everyone focuses on supplements. Like, I've got these supplements, this, and they don't actually focus, as we said before, on the fundamental side of things. Like a supplement is a supplement to cover your diet if you're missing certain things in your diet. Obviously, certain sports supplements a little bit different, but I think there was a study, not a study. I was watching a lecture on a guy who works with, I think, Munster Rugby, and he was a nutritionist. His first day in the job, he went and had consultations all the rugby players, and then he asked them like what supplements you take, and like some guys are taking like 20 different supplements a day, and he asked like what are you taking them for, and they couldn't tell you what they were actually taking them for. And I think it's just that goes back to the side of things about the misinformation on the internet, because you could be reading an article, oh, take this, blah blah, and then they'll go, oh, I've just bought 6 weeks worth of this supplement. So it's a dangerous rabbit hole to go down, and just seek out, even just getting a consultation with a dietitian, nutritionist, and just getting that professional help. You don't necessarily have to get a full-on plan or follow something. Just seeking out some professional help.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I instantly thought of something. We also was in a group, so I know, a Facebook group, and someone asked about supplements. What supplements are people taking? And everyone's listing off these supplements, and and again, like, it was like, I don't really think many people on the list knew why. They just knew that protein. Everyone's like, I need to be taking protein, but they don't really get why they should be taking it and what it's about, when they should take it. Like vitamins. It wasn't until I actually went and read a bit of research on the vitamins and what you should actually be getting and your maximum allowances, and the multivitamin I was taking was crap. I didn't realize it was crap. I thought it was good because it was, it was one of the brands that was out there, and ended up going to, after some really good advice from someone that really knows what they're doing with multivitamins. He was like, Kev, here's a much less known company. This is top recommended dosages for all the things you should be getting. And I was like, God, there's so much misinformation out there. You can spend a fortune on supplements and none of it's helping you.
Well, as you said with the protein, you're taking protein, and it's like a mask to cover all your other, nutritional deficiencies. And like, I'm having protein shakes 2 times a day, but I'm going to McDonald's after the gym. You'll see like someone in the gym. I don't like sort of like picking on people in the gym, but like you go to a local gym and like there's someone running on the treadmill and they've got a big Lucozade bottle. Yeah. Like, and I think, why? Like, what? There's no one, that's not gonna do any kind of benefit, and 2, like what?
Yeah, it's a lack of advice, isn't it? It's a lack of knowledge for that person.
Then they go to the gym and the fridges will be full of these. Like my local gym is full of like this supplement, which I look at, that's a load of shit. This supplement, that's a load of shit. I like all these sports drinks, pre-workouts, and like it's for the average person, it's hard. Well, even like my job, as I said, my job as a nutritionist for fighters, like on the daily, I have to tell someone, oh no, don't take this. Oh, someone told me of this, or my coach told me that. And like, you always have to say a myth busting job at the same time.
Yeah. Good, man. So nutrition, I think nice little cover and some nice little bits in there for people that's tuning in that maybe they're sort of new to nutrition, and I know for a fact they'll go and follow you. I'll be, for anyone that's listening to that bit going, I want to know more, I want to know more. You know, I'm going to have Peter's details within the post when this drops. So don't worry, you will be able to find them, and you will be able to get loads and loads of good reels on that. So big part of the podcast and my passion is around mindset and mental health. I already know that you've got a bit of a love for that issue as well, because we actually met each other at a shared connection, which is Mr. Vinny Shorman. We were both down at his breakthrough day for, I imagine, our own sort of reasons and stuff. So, but that was what, you know, obviously I was listening to you that day, and, you know, and I thought, yeah, this guy's been on his own journey in terms of mindset and mental health. What's your story with that, Pete? How have you got through to where you are now, and how have you balanced the pitfalls, and, you know, and what's been sort of your strategies and things like that?
That's a good question. I think it's always been probably the last maybe 5 or 6 years. I was looking into self-development. I remember the first person I started looking into was like Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins was the first guy I was listening to, like, this is a bit, and I'd always like listen to that kind of stuff. But I think sometimes in life where you listen to the mindset stuff and then you don't actually follow it yourself. Like, you can listen to all the books and all the videos, and then when it comes to a tricky situation in your life, sometimes that just goes out the window. I remember my mum saying something to me very similar about a year ago. She's like, you listen to all these books, but then you go and do something completely opposite to these books. Like, I love the fact that with the when you listen to people like that, is you've got a sort of light to follow. You've got a reference point when you do have issues in your life. You've always got that kind of thing to, I wouldn't say fall back on. Do you see what I mean? Like, you've always got that. And I think a lot of my life because I was the only person who, like, in my friendship group that went to like university. A lot of my friends didn't do that, and all had jobs. And I remember going through uni earning like £60 a week, and my friends are all on full-time jobs, and we were going out, and you sort of feel like you're not inferior in the kind of way where you don't feel like you're kind of good enough, and then that sort of builds up. And I think I've had problems with that, like in my business, where you love what you do in terms of your business, but in terms of like yourself, are you the business and the pizza, is it just the business side of things I like, or myself? And I think that's a journey that I'm always trying to go on and improve. I think that's one of the reasons why I went to Vinny. Well, I've been actually working with Vinny for about 6 months now, just trying to get to a place. I think one of my problems is I'm always seeking more. You're always looking for more. It's never enough. And like, it's a good thing for the business mindset, but you're always trying to grow. But sometimes you need to sit back and go, okay, like, I've got a good life, I've got good things going for me, and having a bit more gratitude.
Yeah. And giving yourself credit.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Which we don't often do. So
yeah.
Do you feel that maybe over the time when you have been full of that self-doubt and worry and stuff, has it been something that you've just sort of had to package up, because externally you've got to put out, you've got to be the guy that's, you know?
Well, this is the thing I said to you about the Australia thing. I think I only stayed in Australia for so long because I was embarrassed about going home and coming back. Like, Peter's come back from Australia and he's doing absolutely nothing with himself. And I think that was a thing in my mind for years. Like, I can't come back to England as a failure. And really, like, you think of that in your mind. And I think when you just look and think, like, one, nobody cares anyway, but it's just that the kind of love for yourself and go, like, I'm on my own journey, it doesn't matter. Like, I think just coming from that. Yeah, I said, like, I look back at that, like, times where, like, I'm doing a chef course from Labour and think, what the fuck am I doing here? But, like, no, I can't go home because, I'll look like a right idiot.
And the mad thing about that is we do get so caught up in worrying about what others will think that we forget that they don't give a fuck, because they're too busy worrying about what others will think. and they're too busy worrying about what others will think.
Yeah.
No one's actually thinking anything about you.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I think because of my journey, I think there's always like I've always got in my head that I've got something to prove, always got something to prove, and as you said, like no one really cares, no one really cares about that.
And so, how over the years, you know, what would you say? Do you recall your sort of lowest moment? You know, if you were to pick something out when you felt, yeah, I'm on my knees here. Mentally, I feel like I've been knocked down. You know, and how did you get back up?
I think what we spoke about before, about the time where, you know, I was doing the job. I remember just turning up to when I was on the building sites every day. I was like, oh, this toilet needs cleaning, you need to sweep up this. And I was just like, you just felt like I remember seeing like a quote in a podcast and like about missing being good at something. I was like, this isn't me. This is like, it was just coming in every day. And like that cycle happened in college. And then my relationship broke down, and we split up, but we still living together. And I just remember the shit, like, I just sat down, my car just broke down. I was like, something needs to change here. I can't I think when you don't have a plan B in life, sometimes that gives you that kick up the arse. It's like, I've got no choice here. I have to, because one, I knew I was like, because I've been in a relationship in Australia for like about 3 years. So like, knew I had to go out on my own again, you know, not having that comfort blanket of someone there, especially when you're on the other side of the world too. And it was just that moment where, right, Peter, like, you need to fucking kick up the arse. And I just remember having a conversation with my friend. He moved over to Australia too, but I met him when I was traveling. So he was a lad from Manchester. We met him in the hostels. I remember ringing him. I was like, I told him everything was going on. He's like, mate, you just need to like roll your sleeve up now. And this is it. You need to just go for it. You've got nothing to lose now. This is it. And I can remember sitting in a car park, looking out to, there's a marina where I used to live, and the sun was going down. And times where I do feel down or something happens to me, like I just reference that moment and go, that was like that was like the low point, and you've got through that now.
I love what you've just said, by the way. You're the first person I've ever heard say, I do a lot of videos and stuff, like 60-second videos on like TikTok and stuff like that, ones that I've maybe not shared elsewhere, but I know for a fact it's featured in quite a few. What you've just said about not having a plan B, the amount of people that I know that the reason they are so stuck is because they know there's a fallback. You know, that they're not against the wall yet. What you've just described as back against the wall. There is no further back. I need to go forward. Yeah.
Well,
I think people get that.
Well, I think as well, I look back at it and like I was living, as I said about the mask, and about I was living in a lovely house by the beach with me ex-father, family, the dogs in the house, we were taking over and love. Like it was just so comfortable. Like even though I was doing a job that I hated, coming in every hated, but it was just comfortable. Like it was the fear of like when that fear, like you've got no other choice and you have to do it. That just something just psychologically in your brain just ticks. I think very similar to the conversation I had when I was, you know, a young scally, you know, shaved head, you know, 19, 20 in the shop. When you just that moment where something just clicks in your brain, you're like, right, I need to do something now. And it's like, as much as like it was a sad part of my life, and like, but I'm so grateful that it happened, because I wouldn't be where I am now. Like as much as like, you know, obviously relationship side I was in, it was like, it's sad obviously that things ended, but you look at it and think, wow, if that wouldn't have happened, I don't even know where I'd be now. I literally, like, I think I'd still be probably in Australia doing some kind of shit job, but I'm in Australia, it's all good. Like it's
it's all good.
Yeah, it's all I'll put that Instagram story. He's living the great life in Australia.
Pete,
but really, you're just miserable.
What's that about? You know, we are
Yeah.
so obsessed with convincing the world, as men in particular.
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
You know,
Great.
but the shit that we're dealing with in our own heads, you
Yeah.
know, but you like, I guess you don't want to put that out there because you don't want to be doom and gloom and then be vulnerable, because that's vulnerability. That's real vulnerability. You're
What
like,
do you mean? I would never put a video of me on the building site sweeping up like, yeah, look,
sweeping the toilet, doing the Kazi.
yeah, just clean the toilet. Oh, this is great. Like, so I'd be like, I'd be in my head then. I'd have been like, I couldn't do that. Peter's the guy who's got his master's degree and moved to Australia. So like that image of like, you couldn't be doing that.
But it brings in a really interesting point. So to everyone who knows you, thinks he's on top of the world, he's doing great. Behind the scenes, well, sorry, not behind the scenes, across the world, you're in despair. You know you've got to do something. Are you at that point? Are you speaking to anyone, or are you just in your own head?
In my own head, completely in my own head. And like, yeah, it was like that. Yeah, literally, wasn't talking to anybody, and then I remember that moment happened to start my business, and then at the time I was still living with my ex-partner and the family, and then she went home, and then that was like another like start again kind of thing. So then it was like, I am actually on my own here now, kind of thing. Like this is it. I'm in Australia for the first time, actually on my own. And then I think it was just, as you said, the plan B is like, I need to like the sort. Sometimes I think pain can help, like where it can just drive you through. Like, I need to do this. I need to focus. I need to get through things. And yeah, that sort of energy just went from like sort of sadness, upset, straight into like, what can I do business wise moving forward? And because I look at my growth in my business, I think probably from the outside, people probably think I've worked in this space for absolute years and years, and like it hasn't been as long as probably people think it is. I think a lot of that is down to just that drive, where sometimes that pain, sadness can just propel you maybe an extra 6 months ahead of a normal scenario, even though no scenarios, no, but you see what I mean?
Yeah. And
but I guess, sorry, turning speaking to one. Yeah, it's strange when you're living over there, because your family here, you have a chat with your mum and dad on FaceTime, or phone goes down, you're back in your bubble. It's a weird thing living so far away, because I'll give an example. When like me grandparents passed away, you're on the phone, you're upset with the family. As soon as the phone goes down, you back on with in your bubble. It doesn't, you feel like you're detached because it's so far away.
Yeah.
So like you just feel a lot of times like I am on my own on the other side of the world, like just going out. But I look at it now and think that is such a learning experience now, where I feel like I can go anywhere and I can say conquer anything. But I feel like I've done that. I can do anything now.
And that's, again, I think there's an important lesson in that, when a lot of the times when we're really beating ourselves up about how we perceive our, I can't get through this, I don't have any confidence, it's shot to shit. We don't remember, David Goggins calls it the cookie jar.
That's the thing.
I love it. You don't remember that you've actually come through tough times, tough situations, tough decisions, and every single fucking time you came through it. And you dusted yourself down and you went, right, let's go. I am not going to be knocked down. But we forget all of that. So when we start to really doubt ourselves and our confidence is at the lowest, what we need to do is start to go, what you've just described, getting told your grandparents are gone and stuff like that. And, and all this stuff's happening. You're in another country across the side of the world on your own. I mean, all of that stuff is, that's your cookie jar.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And the thing as well, which is another difficult decision, what happened over there. Like I did have friends over there that I was friends with, but when you're starting to do different things and you've got that mindset where you're not just Peter, the lad who's just, going for it, and you're starting to push yourself, and then people around you start to go, hold on, like, what's Peter doing here? Like, he used to come out and go for a drink and do this, and then you're not doing that. And then that's another challenging thing where I had a group of friends where it got to the point I had to say, this, for my growth, this group of friends isn't the group of friends I should probably be around. And that's even harder when you're in Australia and they're your only friendship group as well. So it's like, it's making a decision, but I think, as you said, it's that cookie jar moment, like, you need to make them big decisions to grow.
And see, I really like that. You're bringing in points that, again, is massive for me. You're talking about how this journey of growth, and when you're on a bit of a mindset and discovery sort of journey, without being, for people listening going, what the fuck's he talking about? It doesn't need to be cheesy. It needs to be real. You are going to, when you decide to make changes in your life and you decide that you want more from your life, the fact is you're going to elevate up. It's like, I always describe it's like a set of stairs. And as you go up each stair, the fact is not everyone's coming with you. You're going to naturally, people are going to be a step behind you, and then you're going to naturally join new people on a step above.
Yeah, and I think there's always that kind of, probably it's not conflict, but if they're seeing you're doing things like, they don't, there's that kind of, maybe that little snidey remark when you're in the pub, or and like that builds up, and then, but when you've been used to that kind of, them kind of comments, it like, when I've sort of grown up, I've had friends who, when I went to university, and they've made comment, oh, why would you go to university? Fuck that, I'd rather get a real job, on stuff like that. And like, you sort of get used to them kind of snide remarks, and then it gets to a point where you're growing as a person or as a business, and you're like, I can't have that negative vibe around me, and like, just having them conversations in the pub. And that was one of the decisions why I moved back to the UK last year, because I was like, I need to get away from that kind of environment. And like, the things that I've realized, I used to look at it in a kind of, I can't believe they haven't got that same mindset as me, or why don't they think that? But not everyone's like that. And I think that took me a while to realize that. And it's not it's not a negative thing on them. It's just people just are quite happy to do what they do. And that's fine. But I think some, like, people like ourselves, we're always trying to look for more and trying to go on that journey.
Yeah, I can relate strongly to that, Pete. Personally, like, when I decided to, go and train up, as an NLP therapist, coach, whatever way you want to sort of look at it, I knew that I was going to have to put myself out there in subjects that would be, some people would go, who does he think he is?
Yeah.
We know him, and and that's not the chat that we would have with him or whatever. But you have to just stop worrying about that shit and know that you're someone who puts a lot of content out there as well. Ultimately, you're not going to hear that judgment. It's not, all that happens out with your earshot. So why let it bother you? The people, the people that matter are the people that's going to, I always say it's the people who are going to celebrate your success as well as your low moment. They're going to be there no matter what. Those people are going to draw to you, and they're going to, there's an expression we use, your vibe attracts your tribe. What you're putting out is going to radiate out, and it's going to come back. And people are going to judge you no matter what.
I think that's a very good point, because I've realized that my friendship circle is very small, but I'd rather have a small friendship circle and that, and be able to have like deep, meaningful conversations and people being there for me and supportive, than a big group of friends. And it's just that kind of false surface level conversation where it just doesn't feel real. Like, you probably know yourself, like, you've probably had friends in the past where it's just like, it's just not a friendship. It's just a surface level. You couldn't tell them anything serious or deep. And I love that. Just like my circle is really tight knit, and I know who I can rely on in my life.
So what's Peter's sort of, again, like we did with nutrition, what's Peter's go-to things for ensuring that his mental health is kept nice and full tank? You know, what do you do day to day, week to week? What keeps you right in that sweet spot where you need to be?
I think it's a continuous development for me. It's always like trying new things. Like I journal quite a lot now, do like a review of the day. I do like me walking. I find walking, just put my phone in the car. I've actually got a lockbox for my phone. So because my job is very all social media, phones pinging, put my phone in the lockbox, put the timer on, I can't open it, and then I'll go for a good hour walk, and just not having the phone, and just that I find it being outside for my mental health helps a lot. That's what I used to like about being in Australia, just going down to the beach, sitting on the beach, watching the waves, and just getting away from all the outside noise.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just a continuous journey for me. I try and listen to as many uplifting, motivational podcasts as I can. I try not to, I think we get caught up in some information overload where you listen to so many kind of motivational, and your brain's just like, I don't know which way to pick. I try and pick like one thing to listen to a day, and then I'll write something down that it sticks to me, and then I'll think of a scenario where that's relevant to my life.
Yeah.
And also just having conversations with people. I think MySpace, you're online a lot, and it can be quite I wouldn't say lonely job, but you're on a screen. You do speak to people regularly on messages, but it's going to see, like, going that, like, I'm back home at the moment with my parents, like going down, like having a conversation just for half an hour, and just like it's just like just having a chat with someone.
Yeah.
I think that's massive. I think when you're in your own head, I want to give a reference when I was in Australia, when you're on your own, all your thoughts is there. You've got no one to just go to blurt off all the things that are in your mind. So I think just having conversations with people is very important. But yeah, it's I'm always looking for new things to look at, to watch, you know, things to go to, like Vinny's thing on the weekend. That was the first time I'd ever been to something like that. So, and it was crazy actually talking to a complete stranger about what's on your mind, and like that, I thought that was really refreshing. Like that's something I've never done before.
Mm-hmm. No, it was cool. I remember it was funny when you spoke, because you had that sort of little smile, and I could see that you were quite nervous, but you went with it, and Vinny created that safe space there and you were just chatting about where you were, about, you know, here's this successful guy, and he's basically saying, my confidence isn't where you think. It's, you know, it's here. I also like what you said there about, you know, just the power of conversation. I had a really good chat with a lad that I know yesterday, and I saw he put on some stuff on social media, where he was like talking about how he's been really, really down for a while now, that, you know, he had been making good choices and stuff like that, and then he was starting to just really cut himself off, and etc. And he put in this sort of caveat, and I think he probably knew deep down I would have took the bait. He was like, it's not all about mindset. Sometimes you just need to, you know, you need time to can reset and all that. And I came in and I went, it's all about mindset, brother. It's all about mindset. Yeah. The fact is, your very post tells you that you were making the right choices, then you stopped. You started to not appreciate the value of those choices, and you cut yourself off. So the worst thing that you do when you start to be trapped up here is cut yourself off for the people that you know will get you out of that. So we ended up having a really good conversation yesterday as I was heading home from work, where I was like, why didn't you, you know, we had this brilliant chat, and, you know, and he's like, you know, that we're two of us were feeding off it, good energy. And I'm like, you've been down there, because he stays a little bit away from the rest of us. And he's got, you know, so I think I'm saying you're down there stuck, you're not going out your runs, you're not doing the things that you should be doing. And the more and more what you're doing is validating that everything's shit. I'm not going anywhere, I'm going backwards, etc., etc. When in actual fact, you're only one good decision or one good conversation away from being back on track.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, I found that with the guy I was living with when I was in Perth for the last couple of months. He's in the same space as me, and he's doing a PhD in combat sports research. And we connected over Instagram, and he had a room when I was in Perth, so it worked out well. And he's into exactly the same stuff as me and mindset, and it's just really good having a conversation. We could talk for 1 minute about, you know, going out, having a drink, girls, whatever, to like having a really deep conversation about life and things. And I thought that was like the first time I've actually had a conversation with a friend on that kind of level, like that real deep level. And it was like, it was really refreshing.
Mm-hmm. It's so important. It's so important that you have that. Also, like, to your point about even going out walks and stuff, I know, like, I'll use running or the gym or just a conversation, you know, with my partner or, you know, the kids or whatever, but you have to factor those things in. You know, I always say you've got in life, like, again, guys will say to me, well, I don't feel like I've got enough time, right? Well, check your screen time on your phone and tell me you don't have enough time. You know, how do you factor in, you know, things like, you know, the gym and stuff like that when you're working, blah, blah. I says, just do it. Stop asking how you're going and just do it. Take the action. Yeah. And I try and say to the guys that I work with, guys and girls, sorry, that you need to be planning that stuff out. When you plan out your next week, you've got your non-negotiables, which is your work, your family commitments, you know, so the things that pay your bills, the things that the people that you're accountable to, and then it's the things that you know that's going to promote a healthy mindset and healthy mental health. And if you don't put them in and you say, well, I'll try and go around, I'll try and go a walk, I'll try and, you know, meet up with that friend, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to do it. And then you're just going to continue to be pissed off that you're not doing these things. You've got to factor these things in. You've got to make sure that they happen.
Yeah. Well, I'll give a really good example of that. When I was deciding I was going to come back, I was like, right, I know it's going to be middle of winter. It's going to be cold. There's not going to be as many like active things to do.
Yeah.
And came home. Obviously, it's fucking freezing. So last night I was sitting in the house. I was bored, and I was like, oh, do you know what? This time last week I'd have been at the beach, I'd have been watching sunset. I was like, no, you've made the conscious decision to actually, when you're back, to do things. So I was like, got my shoes on, just went for a 4-mile walk. It's like, I had to make that non-negotiable for myself. It's like, I can't sit there and go, oh, well, I was here last week. Like, I knew that was the sacrifice I needed to do. Yeah. And this is for my mental health, to go on a walk, put my phone away, and like came back as a completely different mindset.
See anyone listening, I hope you understand the power of what Peter's just said. See, when you hear the terminology, you get uncomfortable being comfortable. No, sorry, you get comfortable being uncomfortable and all this kind of thing. That doesn't mean that you need to be in a gym, lifting crazy weights, getting the shit kicked out in a ring, you know, doing what I do with running and stuff. Sometimes it means it's bad weather outside, put on your fucking jacket and get out a walk. Do what Peter's doing. Leave your phone behind. You'll be blown away how much clearer you will be in your thoughts when you come home. Because when you're out there and the elements and it's just you and the air, I mean, I cannot emphasize how much good thinking you will get done, as opposed to lying on your couch or sitting in your bedroom, you know, with the hoodie up, you know, sitting there thinking, oh, poor me, I've had a long day. I don't know what to make for dinner. Well, you've got to realize the power in just something as simple as that. You know, changing your environment, getting outside. You know, going out. You know, as I say, we're lucky. We are far from the shore here and stuff like that. You can just do that. You know, just go down, head along, clear the head, clear the lungs, and then everything that you've been worrying about suddenly doesn't even seem you're kind of going, was I really worrying about that thing so much?
Yeah, 100%.
You know, it's crazy. As I say, I can relate a lot to that. The power of just breaking free. I like what you're saying about your lockbox. I've never actually thought about that. That's good.
Restaurant, yeah. It's literally, you can see, the thing is though, you can it's see-through. So you put it in, I just put my phone onto airplane mode, put it in, and then you got like the tap, you close the lid, you put the time on, and then if you put it in for 2 hours, unless you're crazy and like want to smash the lockbox, then by all means do that. But you can't get your phone. That's it.
Wow.
You can't unlock it. There's no like emergency lock. It's just your phone's in that lockbox.
So how often do you do that?
I try and do it across the day. Try and get at least like 3-4 hours in over the day. Yeah.
So was that a purpose decision? Did you set out purposely that was the reason you wanted to do that?
I actually watched the podcast, and there's this guy called Johan Hari, and he's talking about attention span, how people's attentions are like diminishing because they're on the phones and they can't concentrate on things. And I was like, I'm like that because I'm exchanging from Instagram to Messenger, blah blah blah. And I was like, I need an external kind of thing to help me with this. And he mentioned about the lockbox on the podcast, so I looked up it, got it, and yeah, it's been around the world with me, the lockbox.
It's something. I mean, I'm not there yet. I know it's certainly an area that I think, like most of us, we need to work on. I like to validate my own excuse by saying, well, I've got maybe people that are it's all excuses. I can absolutely cut down. I watched a fantastic thing. I don't know if it was Simon Sinek. I think it maybe was on YouTube or something like that. He talked about like the dopamine levels that you're releasing.
Yeah.
It is insane. I mean, he says it's the only thing that I think he said something along the lines, it's the only thing that doesn't have a age category yet, despite it not having it, the dopamine levels. So it's, you get like cigarettes, alcohol, all these sorts of things. Yeah. And a mobile phone, I think, trumps all these things. But all these other things come with, you can't do it below a certain age.
Yeah.
And this thing that you're holding in your hand is like feeding you like an addict. You cannot get enough. Let's boom, boom, boom. Before you know it, you've lost fucking 2 hours. I
was like that last night. I got in for my walk and sat on the bed, put a podcast on, and I had it on, and I was just scrolling phones. Like, I'm not even listening to this podcast. Like, I'm just on my phone, just like scrolling and like just responding to messages and stuff. And I think that's a thing that I need to work with quite a lot. Like, I'm always on my phone. I'm always responding to messages. I need to be a bit more like, right, 5 o'clock, or even getting like a different phone, or getting like another phone. It's like, right, that's my work phone. That's in the lockbox until 8 o'clock the next morning, and like potentially doing scenarios like that. But yeah, it's a work in progress anyway.
Good, man. Oh, right. So fantastic. I could just sit here chatting away to you about this stuff. I'd always do this when I'm doing it. I get lost in it. This has been awesome, Pete. I've absolutely loved having a conversation with you, mate. I know some other people are going to love having it as well. They're going to love listening to it. For anyone, again, I know I mentioned this earlier, for anyone that's got a real interest in the stuff that Pete's doing, please, give him a follow. I'll drop the details. I think it's condition.nutrition on Insta. So it's condition.nutrition. You'll love some of the reels. Certainly if you're into sports and absolutely, kind of fighting, different sort of martial arts and boxing, things like that, you're going to love it. But I've found it really interesting just from an endurance athlete. But I've loved just sharing the sort of mindset stuff as well, because I can relate to a lot of the stuff you've spoke about, man. So thanks very much for coming on and having a good conversation with me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, man. Really enjoyed it.
Okay, so for anyone, this episode will be dropping, and keep sharing, keep letting people know. We're going to continue to get just real and honest people on to have good conversations about their life, their stories, and of course mindset and mental health. And I'll catch you guys next time.